What's up, YouTube? Time for an in the bag update video. It's mid-August. I haven't posted one since April, and I figured it was about time to post a new one. I really like watching in the bag videos. I like filming them, and I'm sure a lot of people seem to like it. So let's get into just a quick update, let you guys know what I am throwing. A lot of the stuff is the same, but there are some new things in there as well. I have my Champion Metal Flake Whale Sax Mini, which I really like. And I also have this MVP Nano. This is actually the only MVP product in my bag at this point, as you guys will probably notice as we get into it. Still a mixed bag though. I have a very much latitude heavy at this point. Still got some DD Trespasses in there and a couple other things mixed in. And I'm still using Discraft putters, but very latitude trilogy heavy bag at this point. Let's get into it. You'll see firsthand. So, staple of pretty much all of my in the bag videos. Orange, broken in orange soft magnet. This particular one is, I believe, like 168 or so, which is kind of where I like them for drivers. You can see how beat up this thing is. I mean, it's super warped, it's beat up, and it still flies great. This one's actually still pretty stable. Not in the fact it's going to ever fade on me per se, but it doesn't flip as much as I maybe would like, actually. Occasionally I want it to kind of ride more to the right than it does. It's just a really straight disc. I throw it on hyzer, I don't put a lot of effort onto it, and it just goes super straight. Maybe soft fade to the right, but yeah, look how beat this thing is at this point. It's super beat up, but I still love it. It's one of my go-tos. And most of the time these days I'm using this thing for short technical tee shots, which is something I've always used them for, and also very touchy up shots. If I really need to, like, maybe snake through a couple of trees and kind of get lucky through a gap, that's usually the disc that makes it work for me. I really like that thing. Still putting with Jawbreakers, still money for me. This one's a little bit lighter, it's like 170. This one's max weight. This is my main putter inside the circle. I'll switch to this one outside the circle because it just goes a little bit farther with basically the same putt. It'll just carry that little bit extra distance and give me a chance to go in. Both of these putters work really well. Jawbreaker has a great feel to it. It's kind of like a trilogy medium blend kind of feel, where it's not like floppy, but it's got some give under the thumb, and it's just super grippy, and it feels amazing. It inspires confidence. When I have it in my hand, I line that stamp up, I just feel good, and I've been putting super well. Played a full 18-hole round the other day, made every single putt inside the circle that I remember. I don't think I missed any, maybe one. I missed a birdie putt, but I don't even know if that was inside the circle. Either way, they're working really well. I'm super confident with them, and they just hold that dead straight line out at the basket that I like. They never like veer off the target too much. New disc in the bag, digging it. It's kind of one that I've had, and then I got rid of it, or I lost one. And then I didn't replace it for a while. Got a different one. Didn't quite fit the role. This one's definitely working. It is an Opto Pure. These things have a ton of glide as a tee shot putter, and it just flies super straight. So this basically replaced my Proxy. I'm just digging the latitude more. It's more consistent for me from disc to disc. I love the Opto plastic, so I like having this nice Opto Pure. This thing just dead straight, and it flies really far for a putter, so I really like this thing off the tee. Pretty much all I'm going to use it for. One of my main approach discs right now is this soft Caltrop. Really like this disc. This thing is super grippy. I love the soft plastic. Hasn't broken in too much, and it just basically flies really straight with a consistent fade at the end of the flight, and I can throw it about as hard as I want to, and it won't turn over. So I really like that attribute of this particular disc. It makes it an extremely consistent approach shot disc for me, where I can just basically aim it out just a little bit to the right and just rip it. It's not going to go past the basket, and has a nice consistent fade. Give me a chance to maybe spike it in, but I really like that disc. Also, you can kind of throw it on an anhyzer, and rather than turning, it'll go straight, kind of soft right. It's really nice, a really nice line that it'll fly for me. And then I have the Opto Caltrop. This one's quite a bit more overstable. It's got more fade and more high-speed stability, so I can throw this thing as hard as I want to, and it's always going to fade on me, and it will not flip really at all. So this one, I'll throw more for putter hyzers off the tee. Love the Opto Plastic. This thing will probably stay stable for forever. Basically, I mean, I don't foresee bashing a lot of trees with it, and even if I do, it's not flying very fast where it's going to take a big impact. So I imagine that thing's going to stay stable for a very long time. Into mid-ranges. I have definitely worked more mid-range throws into my game. Something I think I mentioned in my last In the Bag video, that I've been throwing a lot more mid-ranges off the tee, where I used to go kind of putter to driver. I had a couple of mid-ranges that I like. The ones that I'm throwing right now are working so well. They're really consistent that I'm actually throwing quite a bit of mid-ranges. Probably my least thrown mid-range right now is this G-Star Wombat. It's actually relatively close to coming out of the bag, but just because I'm not throwing it a lot, carrying it all the time, but it doesn't really get thrown. But I'll probably keep it in there, especially if somebody happens to end up with us that doesn't really throw or something. This would be a great kind of beginner disc to stick in their hand, and it is a great disc for tailwind, bombs on the tailwind. Basically, the same kind of shots I would use that really beat soft magnet for, I would use this Wombat for at longer ranges. Once you get it to stand up and go, it's not going to come back and hook up on you at all. It'll just go super straight. If I really need to make sure a disc stays turned over, I'll probably use this one as well, because it is quite flippy. It's G-Star, it's broken in. You gotta really finesse this thing to throw it straight, but when you do, it carries for days with almost no effort, and it's still a really nice disc. I like the way it flies. It's extremely unique, so it is still in the bag. We'll see where it goes from there. From there, disc I'm throwing a ton is the Gobi. The Latitude 64 Gobi, I'm throwing this thing a lot. This is one of my most thrown discs in my bag right now. Ever since I put it in here, it just works really well for my arm, and I can just throw it super straight. It goes farther than any of my other mid-ranges, almost as far as a driver, but it has that mid-range flight to it that I just really like. It says understable, but you guys know I don't have a huge arm, and I also like to throw kind of smooth hyzer flip kind of finesse lines out there on the course, and this thing just works so well for my game. I really don't consider it terribly flippy. It's just really, really straight. So yeah, throw it down on a hyzer, pop up dead straight, and it's just really good. And if I hold it and throw it on hyzer, commit to it on that line all the way throughout the flight, throughout the throw, it will stay on hyzer as well. Giving you guys some extreme close-ups this video, just kind of the way my setup is. But yeah, the Gobi, amazing. Loving this disc. If you are looking for just a super straight flying mid-range that you can throw off the tee, really recommend it. I also really like the feel of it because the plastic is really grippy. The gold, it's Opto, but it's really nice grippy feeling Opto. The gold line plastic out here I don't really notice, but it's very low profile for a mid-range. And yeah, it's almost like a hybrid between mid-ranges and drivers. Love that thing. So nice off the tee for me. Then getting into a staple in my bag as well is this yellow, just straight up stock opaque Opto compass. This is a pre-World Champ one, so there's no World Champ markings. This is when it was just the Ricky signature before he won the Worlds last year. This particular one is slightly broken in and just flies any line. You can keep it on hyzer. I can throw it for turnovers, which is what I use it most often for. Straight shots and turnovers are slower. Don't go quite as far as the Gobi. More of a controlled flight, but still get a lot of distance from mid-range, and I really like this disc. It's a great flyer that I throw a whole bunch. I throw that thing quite often. Then the next two, pretty rad. This is one of the second run Disc Golf Nerd stamped custom discs. This is an Opto Sparkle compass. This one is also pretty much all of my discs these days are max weight, by the way. I'm not really giving you guys max weight or weights on a lot of these because I forget, but all my mid-ranges, both of the Caltrops, the Pure, they're all max weight, just so you know. This one, yeah, beautiful. Love the blue. I'm not a big blue fan, but this thing's just so pretty with the sparkles and the silver stamp. Just gorgeous. So this one I will throw for just a little bit more stability, where I was throwing my Ricky sparkle silver sparkle ones that I had. Really great. This one flies almost just like that. So it's nice to have the DGN stamp in there. I kind of dig it. I have another one right here. This is an Opto anchor. This one is max weight as well. It's a pretty flat top anchor. These are nice. These are like a really overstable, kind of old school beaded mid-range. Got that big bead, kind of traditional feel in the hand, and I just like them. They're really stable. These Opto ones you can throw as hard as you want. They're not going to flip over on you at all. And I love this thing for kind of short range, mid-range hyzers and approach shots, but mostly off the tee. Doesn't get used a ton, but when I need it, it's the perfect disc. Had a couple of great park jobs on just like a smooth little short range hyzer shot. Works really great for that. Into some drivers. I don't have a ton of drivers in here. What do I got right now? I got 6, 7 drivers. That's all I'm carrying right at this moment. This is an Opto Fury. Love this disc. This thing is my go-to flippy disc for tons of different lines. Hyzer flip it up, dead straight, very, very little fade at the end of the flight. Holds a turnover beautifully. I can get it to start turning and come back just a hair if I need it to kind of pan out and finish flat. I can dial that in with this disc. It goes far with no effort. So if you're looking for, if you're kind of a slow arm speed player, you need something that you can keep straight or get to hold a turnover, but you don't want to go quite as flippy as like a diamond or something like that, the Fury is money. I love the lettering on this thing too, just beautiful. Love this disc. I have a backup that's identical, same plastic, same weight and everything, same stamp. So in case I ever lose this one, I can throw that one straight in the bag. Perfect for turnovers. What's the weight on this one? This one is a little bit different weight. My drivers are generally lighter than max. This one's 166, which helps it fly farther, helps it kind of turn over the way I want it to. And I love this disc. It's actually replaced, I knocked the signal out of the bag and my Jade, because this thing just flies relatively similar to the Jade. It's a little heavier and it's easier to replace because my Jade was a little bit stable. This thing is really underrated disc. I think a lot of people could really like that disc. It's kind of like a Saint or an Escape, but it is flippier. So really nice disc. I love that thing. Working a ton of lines with it. Then probably my farthest flying disc in my bag. It's a little bit of a toss-up between the next two coming up here, but it's probably this Big Z Thrasher. This is my straight line distance disc. It is a pretty wide rim. You can see it's got some speed to it for sure. Nice and flat. I lost my first run. I still can't quite get exactly that nice of a flight. This one's real close though, and it's my go-to. I have some other ones that I tried to replace it my first run with, and this one is still as close as it gets. Beautiful feel. I like the Big Z. It's a beautiful disc. I love the Raptor stamp on that. Super rad. These things, I'll throw them on some hyzer and they will just stand up and just go super straight. So I really like that. I might have just shown you guys my ink. I'm going to have to edit that out of the video. Yeah, these things are just big distance. I have to be careful on the angle I give them. I can't throw them too flat or too hard. Got to give them some hyzer and smooth them, but they'll stand up and go really straight for a long period of time. So I use that disc quite a bit. That's one of my most thrown true distance drivers. Then I have 3 Trespasses. Still a staple in the bag for sure. Air Trespass. This one is a little bit straighter than some of the other ones I've thrown, but still has a pretty consistent fade at the end of the flight. So this is a big distance Trespass for me. If I really want to air one out, I'll throw this thing, or if I feel like my arms maybe a little bit off that day, sometimes I just feel like I'm not putting as much energy on a drive, I'll switch to that one. But for the most part, my go-to Trespass, my go-to driver overall, something I've had in the bag for several years now, is this old pre-Sweden Lucid Trespass. This one is 170 flat. The Air, let's go back. My Thrasher is 170, the Air Trespass 155. This one's is 170 flat, pre-Sweden again, so it's an early run, opaque Lucid plastic. Basically flies exactly the same as it has for years. I don't hit a lot of trees with it because it's more of a open shot disc for me, because it just bombs. I throw this thing really far, and when I'm working in the woods and stuff, a lot of times I'll throw flippier stuff or mid-ranges off the tee. So this thing has maintained really nice flights for a very long time. That's my number one for sure. I have a couple other backups on standby in case this thing gets lost, but I really hope that never happens, because one of my favorite discs for just a really straight distance shot that will always finish back to the left for me and won't ever ride out to the right too much. The Trespass just works really well with my arm speed, my throwing style, to get me good distance without having to worry about it flipping accidentally, and having a consistent fade at the end of the flight. This one is a prime. I'll throw this one on rainy rounds a lot, just because the prime plastic has a tremendous feel when it gets wet. You like lick your thumb a little bit, it digs in, it just feels great. I love the grip on this thing, and it started out really overstable. It's still just as stable as my Lucid probably, or real close. So I will throw this one if I want to make sure it's gonna fade pretty strong at the end of the flight. I'll throw this one, and over water, or if any kind of risky situation, I will throw this. This is kind of like the stunt double for my Lucid, so I can throw that guy. If it's gone, it's gone. I'll buy another one, and I'm sure it'll fly very similar. Then we have the Paige Pierce Convict. This is a 3-time with the actual Paige Pierce signature on there, which is super cool. I had her sign it before Beaver State, before the final round of Beaver State, when she pretty much had it wrapped up already. 9.4, 0.5, negative 0.5, and then 3 for fade. I would say that's pretty dead on for me and my arm speed. I like this thing. I'd say the glide could probably be up a little bit. This particular one is what, 170 flat, which is more or less where I like my drivers. I think my prime Trespass is max weight. Yeah, it's 174. So this one, I love the opaque Lucid. It's a great grip and feel to it. This one's got a little bit of swirl to it. It's real pretty. I'm a big Paige fan, so I was happy to put this in the bag, and it's really functional for shots where I want to throw an accuracy control fairway shot that still gets decent distance and has a nice fade at the end of the flight. This thing will just fly really straight and have that consistent fade whenever it slows down. It's actually relatively stable for me with my kind of smooth hyzer flip throwing style. It stands up a while, always finishes strong left, and very predictable, very accurate disc. Finally, last disc in the bag. Super meat hook. This thing is a Frostline XXX. It's max weight. Actually, it might not even. No, it's 172. Max weight for the XXX, fun fact, is actually like, I think the same as a mid-range, because it's a big diameter. If you put it up next to the Convict, you can see it actually has a larger diameter. You can find XXXs up to like 177, maybe even 180. I don't know if those are still legal, but you can get some real beefy ones with that. But it's just a mean disc. This thing is super overstable. The Frostline plastic's tremendous. Grips super well. I like the flexibility. It doesn't bother me at all. I actually really dig the feel of it. I'd love to see this plastic type for Trespasses. That would be really cool. The what would it be? The fluid Trespass. I'm really hoping those come out soon, but we'll see. This thing, you just know exactly what it's going to do. It's that slow meat hook. Throw it in the bag. Never have to worry about it flipping over. Dumps out on just super strong fade. I can't throw it hardly anywhere. I could throw any of my putters farther than this thing, probably, unless I really flexed it over. Mid-ranges, no doubt about it, I could throw a mid-range farther than this thing. It's super meat hook, but it does exactly what I want it to do. It'll skip around a corner, throw it as hard as you want, never flip, always fade like a really, really strong fade. And I actually have had some relatively successful forehand approaches with this thing of late as well, because it's so stable. I can put it pretty flat, or maybe even on a gentle anhyzer out of my hand, and it'll still come back and go right. So that is my bag for right now. Big thank you for coming along for the ride, taking a look at what I'm throwing. If you guys have in the bag videos posted to the internet, leave a comment down below. Tell me where to find it. I'd like to see what everybody else is throwing. I'm always happy to check that out. Thanks for all the support. I will check you guys soon. All right, cheers.